breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Monday Purple Report, brought to you today and every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season and postseason by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson. Does a great job pulling everything together for our show, all the clips, all the highlights. There weren't a lot of highlights yesterday against the Packers, but how are you doing, AJ?
Besides the game, the weekend was good, Jeff. The weekend was good. You have a good New Year?
Yes, Happy New Year to everybody out there. And it wasn't such a happy January 1st, however, for the Vikings. They ran into that buzzsaw, which is the Packers' December and January record at Lambeau Field, which December at least, they've won their last 15. Matt LaFleur's never lost in December and January 1st. I guess it's close enough to December, but not a great day for the Purple yesterday. And it's very clear to me, AJ, that what we saw yesterday was not the Vikings winning formula that got them to 12 wins. No. Where the Vikings have been successful, it's Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson, their record-breaking connection, leading the offense, the defense forcing turnovers. No turnovers yesterday for the defense. Meanwhile, the offense turned it over 4 times, 3 interceptions by Cousins, including a pick 6 and a fumble.
Yeah.
Issues on the offensive line that we'll talk about. Special team, huge issues. Even after it started out so well with Josh Metellus' blocked punt, we'll get to our highlights in a minute, but it was followed up very quickly by a kickoff return for a touchdown. And even the clutch kicker, Greg Joseph, with his 5 game-winning field goals this year, had 2 misses in this game that also were costly and damaging at the time. So you talk about all the things that happened, and it's just really difficult to beat a team that's surging like the Packers. That was their 4th straight win, and now they're in a position, amazingly, coming off the deck at 4-8. Now they're positioned to make the playoffs as the number 7 seed as a wild card if they beat Detroit in Lambeau on Sunday, which we expect to happen, but stranger things have happened. The Lions are coming off a shellacking of the Vikings' next opponent, the Bears, yesterday in Detroit, 41-10. So they're feeling a little bit of confidence too. But the Vikings, you can't win a game when you give up the kind of plays that they gave up yesterday. You have 4 turnovers that turn into 28 points against, including the pick 6, kickoff return for a touchdown, interception return for a touchdown, drop passes, and then 163 yards given up on the ground, even though I thought the defense actually played pretty well the first half. And on the first couple of series, they hung in there very well. But eventually, Rodgers and Aaron Jones kind of took over the game, especially the running game, giving up that 163 rushing yards in the second half. And we'll hear from some of the players, the coach. And again, it's kind of sets up a tricky spot, I think, AJ, going into this game in Chicago for Kevin O'Connell. In his first year as the head coach, he has to make decisions. Do they want to play all their guys, all their regulars? They're dealing with some significant injuries. Austin Schlottman had a broken fibula yesterday. We know he's out for the year, but most likely Brian O'Neill, I think, is a huge concern. He is probably the best offensive lineman on the team. Christian Darrisaw, also a very solid tackle, getting better second year. But Brian O'Neill, a captain, a really good player at right tackle, and has that calf muscle injury that he's dealing with, unfortunately, from chasing down Darnell Savage on the interception return. He pulls the calf muscle. So tough situation for O'Neill. I've had a pulled calf before, and I can tell you they're kind of hard to recover from really quickly. Mm-hmm. Now, I know they've got all the high-tech rehab stuff over there at TCO Performance Center, but I don't know if he's going to make it back for that first playoff game. They definitely need him back. They need Garrett Bradbury back too. We never thought we'd really say that about Bradbury with his first couple of years in the league, but he has played very well this year until he injured his back, and then unfortunately tweaked it worse with a minor car accident, and they really need him back to help call the signals. When Chris Reed came in for Schultman against the Packers, it was a really out-of-sync offense. We saw lots of false starts, late snaps, delay of game penalties, and that's a huge concern. Now, he'll have a week of practice before the Bears game, but again, a big concern. So how does O'Connell play this game? Does he play all his starters? Does he rest key guys such as a Dalvin Cook, such as Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, guys who have been nicked in the past? I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. To me, I think it's really important, AJ, to have a good showing in Chicago, kind of get back the good feeling that they had before after beating Indianapolis with a big comeback, beating the Giants. Because you think about the last 7 games, they're 4-3 since the big win in Buffalo that took them to 8-1. So now they're 12-4. 13-4 sounds a heck of a lot better to me than 12-5. Doesn't necessarily matter if San Francisco beats Arizona as expected, but as we said, stranger things have happened. You would think the 49ers can take care of business against the Cardinals and lock up that number 2 seed. But if the Vikings were to win and somehow the 49ers got beat, and they almost got beat by the Raiders yesterday in overtime, then all of a sudden the Vikings can get back in that number 2 spot. But then they might run to the Packers. So I don't know. Would you rather face Daniel Jones? The Giants are locked in at number 6. Would you rather face Daniel Jones in his first playoff game or Aaron Rodgers if you get to that 2nd seed? But if you're the 2 and you win the first game, you have a second home game for sure.
To me, this is an easy decision.
You want Daniel Jones, huh?
I want Daniel Jones, yeah. You just saw what happened yesterday, and I'm not saying that as if I don't think the Vikings weeks from now could beat the Packers. I'm saying I would rather have them go in a tough, like head-to-head aggressive battle in the playoffs and get maybe a little banged up, get a little wear and tear, and then you're going to get them at home. I'd rather get Daniel Jones, like you said, first playoff game. You've already beaten that team before, so you know how to plan for them. Get them at home, and then it's either you're traveling to then face San Francisco,
right? Tough game.
Which is
which
a tough
would
game,
also be
granted.
tough to play them here.
Yes.
I think they're the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Except for yesterday when their defense gave up 500 yards to the Raiders. So who knows? It's crazy. But I guess if I had my druthers, I'd still rather have the 2nd seed and take my chances with Rodgers here, and knowing that if you win, you've got the 49ers here instead of there, because you would assume the 49ers would handle the Giants. But yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. You got to say it's I don't know. It's kind of a tough call, but I think for now, get through that Chicago game, find a way to win. Maybe play your starters a half, get a lead, which is not necessarily the Vikings' MO. And when they faced the Bears back in, October, it was a tough game. They beat them 29-22. We remember the Vikings score a touchdown. Cousins has a quarterback sneak and a 2-point conversion. They go up 29-22 with 2 minutes to go in that game. And then the Bears are driving. Justin Fields is running wild, and Cam Dancer steals the ball from his former teammate Smith Marset to seal the victory. So the Bears, they're not going to lay down in their final game, even though they played terrible against Detroit on Sunday. So we will see.
I know really, really quick, amongst fans, it's always like a foaming at the mouth conversation of, oh, you rest the starters, you want them healthy for the playoffs, or on the other side, you want to flip the script and you want momentum heading into the playoffs and the most important part of the season. So I know you've kind of indirectly answered the question I'm going to ask, and I think you kind of said you would play your starters for maybe that first half. From a front office perspective, how much really is that conversation of we want guys healthy versus let's get momentum back in our favor?
Yeah, I think it's always a conversation when you've got a spot locked up. But I think the difference, and Kevin O'Connell in his media session today alluded to that. He said, we're still in play for the number 2 seed. So it's not a totally meaningless game where you would definitely think about sitting everybody, for example.
Yeah.
It's not the 3rd preseason game. and so he did say that they're thinking long and hard about it, and that's going to be something to watch as we approach this particular last Sunday of the regular season. But meanwhile, let's go back to that unfortunate afternoon in Lambeau Field. And I don't know if there's something about Jim Nantz and Tony Romo when they call Viking games. They had the Cowboy game earlier this year, 40-3, and they had this Packer game. So
it's incredible. They've called that duo. I saw a stat leading up to the game. They've called, I think it was 7 or 8 Vikings games nationally. They've lost every single one of those games
in recent years. You say
yes, exactly.
That's crazy. It's a crazy stat, but I don't think they'll necessarily see them in the playoffs because it'll probably be a Fox game.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's go to our highlights. And it started out really pretty good because Josh Metellus, the special teams ace, blocked a punt for the second week in a row.
Leaves the hand spinning like crazy. Exactly right. O'Donnell in the punt. Oh, and that. Did they get it? They got it. They got it. It's blocked. It's picked up at the 2-yard line. Incredible.
Unfortunately, the Vikings did not get the good bounces in this game because that did not bounce to a Viking to walk into the end zone. It bounced to the Packers and got stopped at the 1-yard line, and then a really disastrous series in that particular situation. First and goal at the 1-yard line. They try a pass, incomplete, and then Dalvin Cook gets stuffed on second down. Schultman breaks his fibula on second down. Chris Reed comes in. This was really, I thought, a bad call by Kevin O'Connell on third and goal. Again, he runs Dalvin Cook up the middle behind Chris Reed in his first snap. He's never played center in the NFL before, and they've got an all-pro nose tackle in Kenny Clark. Cook gets stuffed, and then they settle for the field goal. So it just kind of a downer at that point to settle for 3 after first and goal at the 1. And then the ensuing kickoff, again, disastrous.
On both sides so far, 9 plays, only 12 yards total for both teams combined. No first downs. This is Nixon, who's dangerous. Oh, here he goes! My goodness! He's taking it the distance!
You talked about how dangerous he is. The most kick return yards in the NFL. And he shows it right there. He had the 94-yard kick return last week. And here he is again. Wow.
That was 105 yards.
Yeah.
And if you noticed on the replay, a couple Vikings got very much out of position. Jalen Naylor, the rookie, for some reason veered right and left a big hole up the middle.
Parted like the Red Sea.
Yeah, exactly. I think you and I might have been able to run through that hole, but and so all of a sudden it's 7-3, and as we said, just kind of a downer at that point in time. So the Vikings get the ball back, and they're driving. And here was a kind of a controversial play in the game. Jair Alexander was locked up with Justin Jefferson, and we all know the story from the first game where Jefferson went off with 9 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alexander, their Pro Bowl corner, really never covered Jefferson in that game, and he kind of spoke about it after the game. He wished he would have. And the Packers wisely adjusted their game plan to put their best corner on Jefferson. It was about 20 out of the 31 snaps he played him head on. But he also had help over the top, too, even though Alexander wants you to think that he locked him down by himself, that nobody locks down.
He wasn't the full outfit. He was the jacket.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. And so on this particular play, Alexander is able to break up a pass to Jefferson, and it's the aftermath that kind of is a little bit controversial, shall we say.
2nd and 10. Here they go up top, sideline, and incomplete. And that was Alexander who broke it up. Oh, he's got a little gritty right next to Jefferson.
Can I ask you real quick, because it was a 50-50, it seemed like, for me following along on social media. 1, is that or is that not pass interference? And 2, is that not taunting?
I thought it was both, actually. I thought he got a little tug on him, which is a smart play for a corner, a veteran corner. He knows what he's doing, and got his arm in there, pulled him a little bit, Ref didn't see it, didn't call it. And as far as the taunting, the hard part there is he's not doing it in his face necessarily, but he is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, if he was standing over him and doing that, I think he definitely would have got the flag. I think he still should have got the flag, and Justin said he should have got the flag too and expected it, which would have been a big play, because 2 plays later, this bad play happened.
They shift Jefferson to a slot to the right side. There's the pass down the middle, and it's broken up and intercepted. Off the deflection, it's picked off. Savage got blockers in front. Only Cousins is down there. He won't get him. And the Packers have a second return in the opening quarter for a touchdown. What a kickoff. What a pick.
Yeah, just crazy at this point in the ball game. The Vikings are down 14-3, and the Packers have 14 yards of offense. So, and we noticed at the end of that play, as Savage is going to the end zone, Brian O'Neill has fallen down, that he's pulled that calf muscle. So, double disaster on that play. Packers up 14-3 at this point in time. Let's take a second before we go to the rest of our highlights and talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealers and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine, delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in and discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen. And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's the new year and a great time to step up to the professional-grade season. Good luck in the playoffs to the Vikings. Test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. The year's best selection is available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. So as we moved ahead into the second quarter, and the Vikings have a missed field goal by Greg Joseph. He had a couple misses in this game that broke his streak of 21 consecutive made kicks. He probably needs to maybe kick outside a little bit more this week, and perhaps in the coming weeks if they go to San Francisco or Philadelphia, whatever. Yeah. But meanwhile, another big play and a coverage bust here as Aaron Rodgers hits his tight end, Robert Tonyan, for a touchdown.
That's crazy.
They're not out of it, but
2nd and 11. Rodgers backs up to buy time to the end zone. Touchdown, Robert Tonyan.
Yeah, so Josh Metellus beaten on that play, and it was a little bit of a coverage bust as Tonyan really kind of flew through the secondary wide open before Metellus reacted. And we understand they're trying to get some more snaps for Metellus, for Brian Asamoah, and perhaps give Kendricks and Harrison Smith and Jordan Hicks a little bit of a break, keep them fresh for the playoffs. But that's sometimes what's going to happen when you're making these substitutions. And we saw later in the game some substitution issues where the Vikings only had 10 players on the field on defense. And for some reason, the coaches didn't see it upstairs. It's hard, I think, for O'Connell to see it on the sidelines. But the coaches upstairs, they should be recognizing that and say, hey, call timeout. We only have 10 guys. And then a couple plays later, they had 12 guys on the field. So, again, that's that mixing and matching of personnel and putting guys in the game. Got to get that stuff straightened out quickly before the playoffs. So, Vikings at this point down 24-3. I mentioned the bad bounces they got in this game.
A literal bad bounce is coming up.
Yeah, exactly. A bad bounce off the goalpost. And we saw in the pick six there was a bad bounce off of Hawkinson and Rasul Douglas, who was covering him. Here's a bad bounce off the goalpost for Mason Crosby.
56 to close out the half. Gives it his best. Is it enough? Hits the crossbar and goes through. Right out of the Justin Tucker playbook.
Yeah, things aren't going well. That kind of stuff happens.
You can just pack it up after that.
Yeah, as opposed to the New Orleans game when we saw the double doink by their kicker Lutz over in London when the Vikings won that game at the end. So an awful first half, ends 27-3. Not really much going on in the second half. Just more kind of discombobulation on offense with Chris Reed at center. Can't really get anything going. Justin Jefferson. Again, here's where I have a little bit of a problem with some of the play calling by Kevin O'Connell in this game. I think when you've got the NFL's leading receiver, you got to find a way to get him the ball. And there are ways to get a receiver the ball, whether it's a wide receiver screen, whether it's coming out of the backfield, a jet sweep. Get your best player the ball. And in this game, only one catch for 15 yards. That, to me, is inexcusable. And that's something that the coach has to rectify going forward because we know they're going to try to take Jefferson away in the playoffs and put best corners on him. That's happened before. Got to figure out a way to get it done, even if that's the case. So not much happened second half. Good until garbage time. And the Vikings did, late in the ball game, get a long touchdown pass. Jalen Naylor, mentioned him earlier, had a bad moment on the kickoff return when he got out of his lane. But this was a good moment for the rookie fifth-round pick and scores his first NFL touchdown on a pass from Kirk Cousins.
Back, and they just said, we're better than you. We're beating you up like a big brother.
Hawkinson with his 7th catch. And look at this, all the way to the end zone. Jalen Naylor with the touchdown, but the flag will have to check it.
So the final score, as we said, 41-17. Not pretty.
No.
But, hey, if you said back in August that the Vikings would be 12-4 going to Chicago in the final game, already clinching the NFC North, holding the number 3 seed, you'd say, yeah, we'll take that.
Yes.
It's just the way they lost the number 2 seed is a little bit kind of heart-wrenching in this case to lose to your biggest rival in Green Bay. But they did get the split with the Packers this year. So I think going forward, as we said, big concern about Brian O'Neill, Garrett Bradbury. Got to get their offensive line healthy for the playoffs. Keep guys like Hunter, Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Cook healthy in this last game. It's going to be a juggling match for Kevin O'Connell. We'll see how he handles it. And meanwhile, let's hear from the coach after the game.
Very disappointed in our performance today, both as players and coaches. I thought some of the plays that were there to be made we didn't make, and clearly we could do a better job coaching. It starts with me, giving our guys a chance to try to sustain momentum. You can't come up here and turn the ball over, directly lead to points, give up a 100-yard kick return, and even when we did get some defensive stops and or that block punt early on, we weren't able to do enough with those opportunities without self-sabotaging some of those drives offensively. So got to find a way to improve, get back to what we've been when we've been able to win some football games by not turning the ball over, play clean, and give ourselves a chance to win. We did not do that today, and got to find a way to figure out why what I thought was a week of preparation, why that didn't translate to our performance today as we continue to move forward here.
I have one more suggestion for the coach, AJ. When you suggest to players that they wear cleats with a lot of studs so they don't slip on the field, but they don't listen to you, a couple of guys, such as Jefferson and Hawkinson, and they had some slips early in the game that were costly and killed drives. I don't know that you suggest. I think you tell them.
Yeah.
Tell them that, hey, this field is not a great field. It's a little slick. I remember even going back long ago that the Packers field in December, late in the season, could be very icy and slick, even with heating coils and all that. And I remember one game where the field was totally frozen. We had Keith Millard and Chris Dolman. Somehow the field was frozen, so our pass rushers couldn't get there. I'm not accusing the Packers of doing that in this case, but it certainly was not a great field for some of the players, and they were slipping and sliding. Eventually changed their shoes, but next time, tell them to do it. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear from Justin Jefferson on his tough day at Lambeau Field against Jair Alexander and company.
Every single game, they're not going to let me get over 100 yards. They're going to do whatever in their power to not let me get to that type of numbers. And secondly, it's tough to do that twice on the same team. You know, to get 100+ yards on the same team is definitely difficult. That goes to show you that they're not doing their job if that happens. But it's definitely tough. You know, getting one catch in the game, wanting to be a big part of the offense, wanting to make big plays for us, and not able to do that is definitely hard on myself.
And Adam Thielen, veteran receiver, he also only had one catch in this game. Hard to win when your two top receivers have a total of 2 catches. Just as it's hard to win when your top 2 pass rushers, Hunter and Zadarius Smith, have no sacks between them. Both of those things have to be different come playoff time. But Adam Thielen talking about momentum and execution.
I think we talk a lot about momentum. We talk a lot about how important it is in this league, in the NFL, to gain momentum, and when it is going away from you, to stop it immediately. We didn't do that tonight. When you get those big plays, you get the ball on the 1-yard line, those are game-changing moments that can really springboard you forward. And we didn't do that tonight.
Before we hear from the defensive side, let's talk again about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealers and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine, delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in and discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen. And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's the new year and a great time to step up to the professional-grade season. Good luck in the playoffs to the Vikings. Test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. The year's best selection is available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. So Jordan Hicks talking for the defense, and he's talking about what they can learn from this game, and they've just got to play tighter.
The 49ers won, so you guys have dropped down to the 3rd seed, and does that affect your psyche at all?
It's about us. It's about us, especially after a game like this, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how we play or what seed we are. If we play like we just put out there on the field, we're not going to beat any team. So, we've got to tighten up ourselves, focus on us. Not start, looking elsewhere. It has to be how can we fix what we just did, and what's going on, and how can we fix it quick.
What's the most?
So as we look ahead, Vikings and the Bears, Soldier Field on Sunday. We'll see. I don't know that we've heard a game time yet, but I would suspect they'll put the Vikings-Bears at the same time as the 49ers-Cardinals, since that's the game that really directly affects them. Mm-hmm. Probably could be a 3 o'clock start then. We'll see. But the Bears coming off getting clobbered by Jared Goff and the Lions offense, 41-10 in Detroit. The Lions staying alive in the playoff race, but they're in tough shape. They really killed themselves with that loss in Carolina last week, and they need to beat the Packers in Lambeau and have Seattle lose to the Rams. That's a tough daily double to hit.
No kidding.
So I think the Lions are in trouble, and I fully expect the Packers to win that game, get in the playoffs. The Bears, they're a team that played the Vikings tough the first game. Justin Fields, we know he's capable of running. He had another 100-yard rushing game against Detroit. He's got over 1,100 yards rushing this year. But overall, the Bears, 28th in offense, leading the league in rushing because of Fields mostly. But their defense, 28th in defense. They're last in the league in sacks. So the Vikings should have an opportunity, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Nick Mullins, who got a touchdown pass late in the game. The Vikings should have a chance to do some damage to this Bears defense. And if they can control Fields and the offense, they should be able to get their 13th win. Going around the league, look out, Tom Brady's back in the playoffs with the Bucs. They beat the Panthers, came from behind to win the NFC South, to win that game. and they're most likely going to host Dallas in the wild card round, unless the Cowboys win their finale in Washington while the Eagles lose to the Giants in Philly, which is possible if there's no Jalen Hurts still. But I would suspect that the Giants may sit some players, some key guys like Barkley, because they know they're locked in at number 6. We talked about the Lions. AFC top seed still up for grabs between the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals. The Titans and Jags will play for the AFC South title. New England's in position to grab the last AFC wildcard spot. So we'll be back on Thursday, break down the Bears game, preview the Bears, and maybe have a better idea what the coach is thinking on resting players as we look forward to the final game of the regular season and the playoffs coming up that we will be able to preview next Monday, as we'll know who the Vikings are playing at that point, and we'll also be able to talk about the Bears game. So this has been Jeff Diamond's Monday Purple Report, brought to you today and every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with AJ Fredrickson. Everybody have a great week, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.